Think Live Be production.
3, 2, 1.
This is a Think Live Be production.
3, 2, 1.
Be my best. Do do da 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 da. Seeking the best. Be my best. Do do da da da.
Welcome to Seeking the Best. This is the podcast for growth-minded real estate agents seeking clarity, focus, and a better way forward. I'm your host, Kathryn and sitting across from me is my co-host, Patrick, who's our sound engineer, producer, extraordinaire. This is the podcast for growth-minded real estate agents seeking clarity,
It's a good morning.
focus, and a better way forward. I'm your host, Kathryn and sitting across from me is my co-host, Patrick. He's our sound engineer, producer, extraordinaire. I think I slept in.
It's a good morning.
It is a good morning. It's a little bit earlier than that. We usually get up at 6. Well, I get up at 6 a.m. That's not nice. I think I slept in. Well,
It sort of is, but not really.
no, it was a little bit earlier than that. I think here's how it works. We usually get up at 6. Well, at some point I said I need to get 6 a.m. The podcast to make all real estate agents before I go to the office.
Sort of is, but
I
not really.
trained our dogs.
The dogs.
And I think here's how it works. That dog learns that. At some point I said I need to get up at 6 in order to make all the things happen before I go to the office. It is a good morning. I trained our dogs
that are the same
and then
way.
over time you get a new dog and that dog learns. So the time I get up, I think I slept in. So they definitely wake me up often.
I'm sure people out
It was
there
a little
have
bit earlier than
dogs that
that.
are the same
We
way.
usually get up at like 6. Well, I get up
to the minute.
at 6 a.m.
Yeah,
this
yeah.
morning
It's not
that
that true, by the way.
happened. And I lifted the
It sort of
covers and
is,
said,
but
it is
not
awful.
really.
And
Like
then
the dogs.
and she lives at 9.
I think here's how it works.
Biscotti is
So
like,
at some point I said, I need to get a
this
time
where you make all the things happen before I go to the office.
covers
for a few minutes.
and I trained our dogs.
That doesn't
And then
always over time you get a new dog. And then that dog is learned. We've been talking about the time, by the way.
Rare
time where you
they
sit
definitely
there and you just kind of season of 2026.
Nice thing. Dogs that are the same way. They just have an internal clock.
Time and how we
like to the
are.
minute.
We've been talking about time, by the way,
which is
probably and the alarm most of us our season actually use it wisely of 2026, 59, and Biscotti is like time.
The reason I wanted to start
this
morning
with this
that
conversation is
probably
because
and I
lifted the covers
more
of than actually use it
I've
wisely.
said this
Almost every episode this season, but it is so
slow.
like our
morning.
time
The reason I wanted to start with time
where you conversation is
word I
because
just
think
kind
of
of
to describe
for
what we're going to do with our time.
I've said this
almost every episode
and
this season.
So once we start to understand
about time,
by the way,
and just don't respect
for real
this
estate
is
agents
our
to
manage their time and
that is like
with our time most
your job.
Like if you just mastered that one thing,
once you start to
understand things would fall into place, valuable it is for real estate agents to manage and actually use it wisely.
That is like
truly
and immediately
your job. Like if you just lessons we've learned about time.
The reason I wanted to
start the things with
somebody
conversation
comes
is
in and
because
says, "Can I see this house?"
what
Or
happens
it
is
we
we
wake up every morning.
Everything almost every
episode
episode
forget all the lessons we've learned about
and all the things
time
you've learned.
is we just
throw
don't
out the window.
and
Like
somebody
almost
comes in and says, "Can I see this house?"
describe
Can you meet with me about this?
And just
everything.
I've been
all the
good
good
intentions
and
and
you
all
start
the
to
activities and all the things you've learned
how important
because
and valuable it is
for real estate agents
right?
to manage their time, grow my business. If I don't,
your job.
Like if you just
figure out
a better way to do everything,
It's a first big step
things would fall into place.
treating your business like a business.
What happens is
and
I
being
wake up
an
every
adult
morning, grow my business,
about it
and if I
is-
immediately
is
forget all
to
of the
the
lessons, figure out a
realization
better way to
about
do
time.
everything.
It's a first big
I
step
recently
in
somebody comes in
treating
and
your
says, "Can I
business
see
like a
this house
business
or
and
in our
being
office?"
an
And this is
adult.
everything
about it
all
is
Keller Williams
the
University course, all of the
realization
classes written
that
all
that's
years
the
ago.
thing.
And I taught this
So
class
I
on the
recently
window,
taught
like almost immediately.
it
Personal
talks
perspective
about
you're off track
these
in our
6
office, and this is
strategic
ideas
ideas
course that Keller Williams
help
University
time
course
efficiency and
that was
productivity
written years
for a
ago,
long
and I
time
taught this
because
class,
and every single one of us
gets
right? I
in
learned
real estate
about
I
some
can't
sort of
grow my
ceiling
business
on
if I
our
don't
abilities. that
figure out a better way to do everything.
Like
It's a first
and
big
everybody's
step
is different.
in
Like
treating
every
your
single
business
one
like
of
a
us
business
gets houses,
and
real estate
being
with some
like
sort of
exhausted
ceiling
about
on
it
our
is
ability to sell
the
50 houses
realization
and feel
that
that
that's
way.
a thing.
Like
as an
and
individual, like
everybody's
like
different.
individual
Like
agent,
if
as an
you could
individual
sell
person, like you
12
have a
houses
ceiling
in
on
our
your office,
office,
and this
and
is
everybody's
a
different
maxed
course
out
at
Keller Williams
or
University
sell
course
50 houses
that we bring to the table years ago, and I
as an
taught
individual
like I'm
person.
saying, like as an
Sure.
individual
Just-
agent, as an
and your
individual
conditions
person,
and
like
all
you
of
have a
these
ceiling of
things.
achievement.
Everybody's
ideas
different
about
because
that help
that
you
traits
overcome
that we bring to
being
your
ceiling
table
of
when
achievement.
you start a
Our
real
different
estate
career.
Every single one of us gets
And
into
your
real estate
conditions
with
and all
some
those
sort of
things.
ceiling
Yeah,
on our
everything.
abilities.
When you
About
start your real
our
estate
natural
career,
abilities, who you
you're
are
like
as a
being-
person, and everybody's
when you
start a real estate career
business you can get
12
to
houses
naturally.
and just be like
Roll
exhausted.
and
When you hit
maxed
that
out.
ceiling,
You start to get
when you start
frustrated.
your real
50
estate
houses
career
and
and
feel
looking
that
for
way.
who you
Ways,
are
like
as
an
how do I
individual, like
break
I'm saying,
through?
like as an
Dictate
individual
you
agent,
what
as an
level of
individual
business
person,
you
like
can
you
get
have a
to
ceiling of
naturally.
achievement.
There's like a
And everybody's
lens
different
when you hit
because
that
actually
ceiling,
in
you start to get
traits
frustrated.
in this
And you
course
start looking for new ways, like how do I break through?
after this course?
And you
You're
go
seeking
your
like
conditions
models and
and all of those
systems and
things.
things.
One of
like
the every
like
one of the
there's a little
things
graph where
about
this is
you
actually in
that you
is time.
you're
Like
in
if
this
you
course
can
and understand
start
the
a real estate
80-20
career
principle
after we'll
that
talk more about today.
And
If you can master
one
that,
of the,
by the way,
one
I'm
of
still
the
working on
things,
it. So
when you start your real estate career,
that happens
is
over
who you
like
are
it's not
as a
anything that
person,
ever finishes. There's
understand
always
the
room for
80-20
improvement,
level
no
of
matter
business
how
you
far
can get
along
to
you are.
naturally.
It never really
If you
ends.
can master
That's
that,
the
when you
whole
hit that
point.
way, I'm still
Seeing
working
your
on it.
best.
You start to get frustrated.
That's
It's not
seeking-
something
you
you're
know what I
looking
mean?
for
Like,
new
that's-
ways.
it's not
Like
anything
how do
that
I
you have
break
to kind of wrap
through?
your brain
And you go seeking like
What ends
models
up
of
happening
systems
is you
and
get
things
better
like
at
that.
these
There's like
models.
a
You get better
graph
at
for this
systems.
actually
You get
in
better
this,
at
that's true.
time management.
I mean?
Like
That's
all of those. That's what allows you to spend more time doing lead generation. Is what ends up happening is you get better at these models. You get better at clients, but then you're busy all over again, and then you have to figure out how to do it again. All of those things. It allows you to spend more time doing lead generation, but that also makes you busier.
Master that,
and
by the
more
way, I'm
sales,
still working
hiring
on it.
somebody, and
But
all
then you're
of
busy
that
all over
happens
again.
overnight. You have to figure out how to never again, how to stop doing for improvement, no matter how more clients to your plate. But that also makes you busier, and then you have to hire somebody. And all of the other, you know what I mean? Like that's right here. It never is going to wrap your brain around. Is what ends up happening. You get better at these models. You get better at your systems. And then you get better at really where time management. You get better good right here. Process. It allows you to spend more time doing lead generation. From here, or do I want to go more and 20 sales and more clients? But then you're busy all over again. And then you have to figure out how to do it again. How to keep processing. You have to add your clients to your plate. But that also makes you busier. Look out. And 20 sales a year. It's hiring somebody and all of the other things. It's like once sometimes 7th level good for a while, going to stop. No, I want to keep so I want to go back. Where when you look at
Well, I was listening
and then
to
you
you
have to decide what's
discuss this
am I
and-
good?
And
Am I
I was
something
thinking
here?
about
You're good
the
for
new
a while.
agent
Is
who's
this a
listening.
nice view?
And
I
you
want
just
to
got your license
or do I
and
want
you're
to
like,
go?
well,
I want to
what
go
are some
back,
good
climb
real estate
up to the next
podcasts
right.
while
Yeah.
you're on Seeking the Best?
That's
You're
really
describing
where
it
it never ends.
And I was thinking about the new agent who's
your
listening.
decisions.
And you just got your license and you're like, well, what are some good real estate podcasts you turn on
If
Seeking
you're
the
listening
Best?
to this podcast,
describing
and
it.
the title is
second level. You're just trying to do better than you did yesterday. It just a little bit that happening. And you look out. If you do a little bit better than you did yesterday,
if you're listening to this podcast, the title is Seeking the Best.
for a while, you're just trying to fall down than you did yesterday. Or just I want to go back steps back. But you do a little bit better than you did yesterday. Or tomorrow you do a little bit better than you did. Be real surprised at where you end up. Like sometimes you fall down, you know, it doesn't work. Sometimes you take 2 steps back.
But you turn on Seeking the Best and
always looking ahead at constant things alone. You'd be real surprised at where you end up by the end of the year. I'm sure that's happening. So that's all we need. And to do lead gen and stuff, you know, that having that in your understanding
the
that
title is
keeps you
Seeking the
from
Best.
alone. You're just trying every morning when you wake up yesterday. Waking up to the office to the office on Monday and to do your lead gen a little bit better than you did yesterday. Having that in your head a little bit better than you did you from and keeps you from fall down. Sometimes it doesn't work. Waking up, you take 2 steps to the office on Monday.
Said in some of the other time episodes,
always looking ahead towards those things. You'll be real surprised at where you end up.
to family reunion, our annual conference not too long ago, and so I think I said some of the things I might have said in other time episodes.
But understanding that concept alone,
when you're talking about, I just went to family reunion, our annual conference not too long ago, and so I think I said something from 80-20 principle recently.
Having that in your head,
and it's that 20% of your results come from 80% of your activities. What is the most
if you
understand that,
like
a estate agent,
going to the office
you will hear over and over again about the 80-20 principle. 20% of your results, and it's the 20% of your activities. So what if you make 80% of your activities? 80% of activities that you're doing. If you're listening, some of the things I might have said in some of the other time episodes, because 20% of your results are coming from 80% of your activities. So what if you make sure the family reunion because you're doing the right activity you're doing? And so I think I said certain things from that recently. But then all of a sudden, your 20% results get when you're talking about what is that most important outcome to you because you're doing the right activity. You will hear over and over again about the 80-20 principle. He was talking about 20% of your results come from 80% of your activity, like 5 minutes in the morning. And like if you're listening, what does that mean? And this one little habit, and 20% of your results was talking about 80% of your activities. What if you made sure with yourself for like 5 minutes of activities that you're doing? We've talked about habits before, so I'm going to discuss habits. One little habit, and so this is what I think about. Something you're already doing in the morning, applying it to this 80-20 principle outcomes. Like I get to my office, doing the right activity, my lunch and snack. What happens? So the first thing I have to do is unload. So there's probably something you're already doing in the morning. So I put away my lunchbox reunion, and like I get to my office and I bring my lunch and check in with myself in the morning. So the first thing I have to do is unload. I can just right after that activity that's going to happen. Put away my lunchbox because I got to put my stuff in the fridge right in the evening to check in with myself in the morning before I get started. And then I can think about I can just go right after that activity. We're going to call it a to-do list right now, but then we're going to talk about my stuff in the fridge. I'm going to look over what are my so I'm going to unload my before I get started. There's probably something you're already doing over my calling people, and we're going to call it a to-do list. Like I get to my office and I bring my lunch, and then I'm going to look over what are the first thing I have to do actually is unload before I get started. Before I'm answering the phone, I start putting away my lunchbox that evening. If I want to have that simple to check in with myself in the morning before I get started, what you're looking at in the morning, I can just stack it right after that activity that's going to happen, and then if I check out in the evening. Put my stuff in the fridge. You've got a buyer. There's an offer in. So I'm going to unload my lunchbox, and then I can sit down.
Right. It's
and
like
go over my.
I can
see. We're going to call it a to-do list right now, but then we're going to talk more about that.
Out there,
and then I'm going to look over what are my to-dos for the day.
And where you could have started before I'm driving to work in the morning. I drive to work in the morning. How many of you I go through my entire day? Drive to the office in the morning.
Gets you connected to what actually is important. You could doing it right, which we'll talk more about.
Driving to work in the morning. When I drive to work,
checking in the evening.
I go through my entire day.
What do I need to do
tomorrow? What you're going to say to the
So that's what you're looking at in the morning.
And that's just enough time. It's like, what do I do? I can see, like, visualize the day all the way through. Out there, you've got a buyer for later. There's an offer about what you have to say to the client. How mentally preparing the way you get to work. And then you're like, what do I do? How many of you every day you could drive to work, make a conscious office save for later? But if you get in the habit, that's a good way you could have mentally preparing the way driving to work in the morning. You have to drive to work in the morning. You're taking every day out of every day to get there. It takes the same amount of time. And how to do that. That's a good way to just enough time for when I Main Street, right? Right. Then I visualize the day. You're taking the same path every day for my day to get there. It takes by the time I get to the office, I'm going to say that how visualize I get to, and then you get to work, and then you know what I mean. What do I do by doing that? By the time I get to Main Street, it puts you in the mindset I save for later, and by the time I get to the office, I do what you need mentally preparing the way I'm going to make a call before the game. By doing that every day on your drive from the car. Put you in mindset all of a sudden your whole day to work to get thrown off. That's a good way to start a habit with rather than I'm going to make a call real quick. What you're describing is you're taking the same path every day from the car to get there. Like it's slow then all of a sudden your whole day ends up getting thrown off. Oh, I just have started it with Main Street CRM. Then by the time I get to Main Street, I'm visualizing the entire day like those by the time I get to the office, and you're like working yourself through the day instead of like all the little CRM. By doing doing
and I'm going to
every single
filter
day.
that's a good way to have it stacked
puts
that
you in a good
little
mindset.
check-in, and
Yeah,
then you drive to the office
if you
40,
wake-
and
if
you're
you're
like
the type
working
of
yourself
person
through
who
the
walks
day,
out through the morning
instead of like
shows
all
up,
the
I'm gonna make a call
little
Monday,
quizzes.
goes into the
I need to
office
call
and
that
goes,
lender.
I think that's a good way to have it stacked. It's that little check-in. If you drive to the office,
if you wake up, that's how you're starting your day in the morning with those questions, and maybe I'll do
what
it.
you're
Goes into the
describing
office
is
and goes, get online and I'll send some
the
messages.
entire day,
What am I
like
going
the
to do
flow
today?
of the
Who am I
day.
going to call
So I'm gonna
today?
get to
If
the
that's
office,
kind of how you're starting your day,
open up my
visualize those questions, and maybe I'll do a little perfectly, and it's get online perfectly the first time,
and then I'm going to call those. There's probably 40, and you're like working yourself through the day. Instead of like all the little pieces
become easier.
I think that's a good way to have it stacked for that little check-in. If you drive to the office,
if you wake up, if you're the type of person who wakes up in the morning and shows up to work on Monday, finish the day easier, stuff. But I do think realize how long it might actually take. Who am I going to idea all of that stuff? That's how you can get all of this stuff in that day with those questions. And maybe I'll do a little today. It makes you online this morning at 7. Realize how long things actually take. 6 o'clock. How far did I get? Kind of how you're starting. Can I get all of this stuff in that day? I went through it all in my head. And now it's 6 o'clock. Or was I way off this morning at 7? There's room for improvement. This is all 6 o'clock. All of that stuff. How far did I get through that list? Was I right? Was I close to become easier?
What you described was a little bit different than what I described, but the point is that you're checking in with yourself before you get started.
So that you can actually finish the day.
In a way that you described is a little bit different. What I described just like tagged on to something you're checking in with yourself before you get started. Become a habit because you're already doing it. Doing it in a way that it's not an extra thing. The way you actually like tagged on to some habit is by just putting it next to it. It can easily become a habit doing something else.
Was I really visualizing the day, or was I way off?
That's the whole concept of habit stacking. The way you actually can do all of that start a new habit is by just putting it next to
something you're already
or while you're doing something else. And that's what happens a little bit different than what I described. The best point is that at the end of the episode, checking in with yourself like before you get started. It's not supposed to be some big new thing. Doing it in a way that it's not an extra thing. New strategy, like a tacked on to something you're already doing. And oftentimes that's like the company can easily become a add-on to something you're already doing. So that's the whole concept of habit stacking. The way you actually, it's like a simple, like little thing that you can do. And oftentimes that's something that you can just when you check in with yourself to something you're already doing day. So you also have to make sure that you're thinking about the right activities. It's just like a little thing to do. Like I can envision my day any way I want, right? And then outcome that day will be different. You also have to make sure that you're thinking about the right activities. Right? We say this isn't like I can envision my day any way I want. Interesting thing, and the outcomes of that day will be different. It's like a simple little thing I do, and oftentimes that's recently the concept of 80-20 add-on to something you're doing. To do so list off his activities that you do as real estate agent. Just give me a bunch of activities. And I drew them on like a white class recently in the concept of 80-20. And so what I asked them to do was list off. What's interesting is that everybody was saying just give me a bunch of activities. And I go back on like generation and envision my day any way I want. And then everybody's listing off that day will be different. What's interesting was that everybody was saying, and we finally get to some of those time wasters, like the lead generation. So then doing later, I did an interesting training class where everybody's listing off the important clients. I'm like, is he smart? A similar concept. And we finally get to some of those time wasters recently in the concept of 80-20 important. And later, I did a training class off my activity to a client who was on agent. Just similar bunch of activities. And I from them on like a white, big white piece of paper about what's urgent and same thing. They start listing off the quadrant. What's interesting is that everybody's saying run it through that filter and they start listing off the most important things. Why I thought that was interesting is because doing the activities the point that we all know. Same thing. So everybody's listing off the important things. So I'm like, give me some more items that you work on. Let's run through that filter and they start listing off time wasters. Why I thought that was interesting is because later I did a don't actually last with my productivity coaching clients. A similar concept in a classroom setting, 7 habits of highly effective people. But when we sit down for the day, urgent, not important, don't actually have a quadrant
going through your day, forcing yourself to say, this is what I'm going to do first. Easiest thing yourself. I know. Well, I've all said it at the beginning of the day, which is lead gen.
And same thing. They start listing off
habit stacking,
give me some items that you work on. Let's run it through that filter and they start listing off the most important things. Why I thought that was interesting is because it proves the point that we all know what's important.
Those people
and in a classroom setting,
running around
we list it all.
For some agents,
but when we sit down for the day,
and
we don't actually do those ones.
You've all seen them, and they're going to do the easiest things first. Around talking on the phone, doing the hardest thing in the morning, and it's way too
people that you get there and they're like already on the phone.
This is what I'm going to do first.
Preparing
yourself. This is what we're talking about right at the beginning of yourself, which is for that.
Those people that you get there and they're like already on the phone.
Yeah. That's what and the only way to do that, what I'm talking about, is but in order to prepare yourself, this is what it is for others. You have to prepare yourself, and I'm sure a lot of listeners
know what the most important things are. And if you're brand new or you've forgotten, let me remind you.
Do it on the phone first thing in the morning. Way too happy and excited.
Go on appointments.
A little bit too
what the most important things are. And if you're brand new or you've forgotten anything, let me remind you. Core job responsibilities. But guess what? You don't get to do those people that you get there and they're like already on the phone. That's the first one of lead generate, lead follow up.
But in order to prepare yourself,
this is core job responsibility. Now that comes in a lot. Guess what? You don't get to do
none of the running the business stuff was in the last four.
Yeah, it gets the last four without the first one of lead generate, lead follow up. Yeah,
there's no running the business. There's no marketing.
Now that comes in a lot of different forms.
You notice there's no running bills.
You know what the most important things are. And if you're brand new or you've forgotten, let me remind you.
There's no running the business. There's no marketing, new signs, advertising, running
go on appointments,
office
show properties,
whatever
account, and negotiate contracts like that. That's like the core job responsibilities. But guess what? You don't get to do
new signs when you're supposed to running last four.
Yeah, any of the last fours without the first one of lead generate, lead follow up.
Especially the first one.
And so that's the most important thing. Now that comes in a lot of different forms. Your lead generation, lead follow up could be my lead generation could be I'm going to call today. I'm going to call. And so that 20 of my different forms to just call 20 your lead generation, lead follow up could be my lead generation could be 20 different today I'm going to call on social media 20 of my sphere.
Ordering new
I'm going to come in different forms 20 for sale by owners. And so when you're writing out direct message, that check different with yourself and say, what do I need to do tomorrow? If you just write down can become in different forms, that's the issue that at least I found when you're writing out like come alone,
where it's
especially the check-in point to yourself to say, what do I need to do all different forms and say, just write that down, lead generation, check the issue that it makes lead generation I don't want to come alone, wake up, day, I'm going to call this, and on the way in, you're getting 20 of my spheres. Visualizing yourself and say, phone call, I sat down, but you didn't actually check in with myself this evening, and I said, okay, tomorrow morning I'm going to lead generate different sphere of the office, and on the way in, you're visualizing yourself becoming different forms, but you didn't actually when you're writing out, like, so you've got,
and that's another habit
that check-in point with yourself, that's what do I need to do tomorrow? If you just write down lead generate, that's the issue that at least I found personally, and I don't think I'm alone.
And that's another habit that's too vague.
Obviously, like CRM tools, you can have all the best intentions and say, okay, if you're using a system like I've checked in with myself this evening, and I said, okay, tomorrow morning I'm going to lead generate, and then you wake up and go to the office, and on the way CRM tools can help visualize yourself data into using a system like some sort of campaign or command, and it will tell you when to call them.
Then you get there.
When you rely on that, what happens is what if you go in today, contact data into, and you can set them on some sort of campaign or smart plan. Now what? And it will tell you when to call them. But when you rely on that, what happens is what if you go in today, and if you're doing that check-in, like, yeah, you could make it right at the end of the day before I go home. The only challenge with that, and obviously like CRM tools can help with this, because if you're using a system like check-in, like, yeah, you could make it right at the end of the day before I go home. The only challenge with that, Brevity, like all these CRMs that you put contact data into, and you can set them on some sort of campaign or smart plan. So, and it will tell you when to call them. But when you rely on that, what happens is, what if I go in today, and there's only 3 people setting tasks due?
I was turning the room so I don't even have to think about it.
Now what?
It's an easy way to come back to it. I'm already in front of command. I'm already sitting here.
Can I go down a bit of a rabbit hole? If you're doing that check-in before, like, yeah, you could make it right at the end of the day. I think that's a great idea. The only challenge with that, when you have
no, that's not what I was saying.
And I'm just saying this as a no big offender. Oh, okay.
At the end
before the day starts. You have a list of people. You have, I think that's a great idea. Sources and when you whether they're in your CRM or some other system like with Dial or whatever it is that you have calling, you know who you're calling, and you sit down and you make this. You have a list of people. You do it from whatever time sources inside, whether they're in your CRM or some other system like with a Dial or whatever it is that you have. 30 you're lead generating, calling, and sit down and make those calls, and you stop and you do it from whatever time you have set aside. And I'm saying you're doing it as you're doing the activity 8:30 to 11:30 you're for the generating, and then 11:30 I think that's a great idea.
That's like a
and you check in ideal. Who do you need to follow up with to do this right? You're making notes. You're doing the activity. But what ends up happening before the day? And the reason I'm going down this rabbit hole is that you actually did not. That's like about efficiency. Either in your CRM or some other system. Didn't actually contact as many people as you needed to for what ends up happening. So instead of those calls, your contact you do it from whatever times you have efficiency that you only talk to 5. You're doing it all right. And you actually contact as many people as you needed to for the generating. And then instead of comes and your contact goal is 10, you might check in with whatever it is to follow up. You only talk to 5. You're making notes and you wrap it up activities, and now it's time to move on for the next day. The other 80% and activities.
That's like
my core 20% activities. Those most important things. I did those, and now it's time to move on to the 80%. Going down this rabbit hole is that you actually at this point I need to check in on some things in some recent episodes. You didn't actually contact as many people as you needed to for the day.
If I don't make the calls,
instead of you're like, there's no contact like Miss 10, like at this point I need to check in on some things I talk to 5.
So I won't even notice it. I have to do months from now.
Say, okay, well,
it's not
moving on to the other
calls. Nobody knows what's in these emails. Like there doesn't hurt.
My core 20% activities, those most important things.
I won't even notice it. Right? There's all of that stuff.
It's time to move on to the 80%.
It's easy to blow it off, and you know I gotta send an email. I can see it. My buyer happening. Really on edge, and this whole 80%. Here's the other thing. If I don't talk to her this morning, urgent, right? There's all of that stuff. Beginning yourself up.
Well, you're like,
and it's like just keep making calls.
At this point, I need to check in on some things.
And you can't. Here's the other thing too: that are and more lead gen's not at the beginning. If I don't make the calls, nobody knows. You have to just keep their focus. It doesn't hurt anybody except for me. Yes, and it doesn't even feel like it hurts. So as you can't stop better at 11. So it's easy to blow it off.
Hold on a second, because I think what you're saying is not what I'm about to say. I'm not suggesting you keep pushing through calling and don't break at 11:30. I know you are, because I think what you're saying is not what I'm about to say. That's a good way to lead to burnout. I'm not suggesting you keep pushing through calling and don't break at 11:30. What I see and drive my know you are. That's a good way. I'm like to myself is that's a good way to lead to the other activities for the rest of the day.
Better. And more,
but I didn't actually achieve the goal. What I see and my
focused,
the most important time to do myself was I then get into the other activities for the rest of the day. Like I actually think that most people, but I didn't actually achieve the goal. Right things and start the day right. I think what you're saying is not what I'm about to say. I'm not saying don't pause. I'm not suggesting you stop pushing after calling. Like I actually think that the situation, like if you do all the right things, you start the day right. I'm like, don't like go ahead and do that. That's a good way to lead to burnout. Here, what I'm saying is you stop for the next day. I'm saying check out situation, what I see, and maybe check your email, check on those what things that you need to do. But myself, go ahead and do that while you're still in the other activities for the rest of the day and rest for the next day. But I didn't actually achieve the goal. Designing flyers and all the other things. Email, you do check on the most important things. You do not spend when resting after you were like, no, I actually think that most people, if the designing flyers, you start the things, you don't take a break again. Which I think is what I'm saying.
Yeah. You have to stop. No, you have to stop. No, you have to stop. That's not what I meant.
You don't need to stop.
No, you have to take a break.
Go ahead and do that while you're still in the
activity. It's never easy to just be like, okay, I'm done.
List for the next day.
I have to No.
Check your email, check on those things that you need to do, but do not spend the rest of the afternoon doing that.
It's real easy to just be like, okay, I'm done. It's 11:30. in the morning.
This is really designing flyers. And like I'm saying, this is something that I struggle with. Which I think is what you were saying. You feel like, okay, well, that time you were like, no, stop.
No, you have to stop. You have to stop for lunch.
This is really other activities. Like I'm saying this. So this is where I think it's the most important issue. I feel like, okay, well, that time while you're lunch and while you're eating your lunch, the time back in on going to these other time activities set aside for going to other activities.
That's how it came across.
And this is where I think wasn't the most important time out. You start working. Actually,
be like,
okay, I'm done. And while you're eating your lunch, schedule showing on have to go on appointments, but activities that are going to lead your business forward. Most of us do not have appointments every afternoon that you're about to start working on. And so, I understand you don't have an appointment. This is really that I heard from. Like I'm saying this, I think I originally heard it from us. Do not have appointments every agent course from Maps Coaching. But it was when you don't have an appointment. I love this concept that I heard from. Time blocks and become lead generation. This is where I think from the most important time that you have like a menu lunch and while you're eating your lunch. But it was that you have if you don't have a point say okay, well you hit my goals for and do lead generation. I said it wasn't on the things that you're about to start working on activities. I understand you have to schedule activities. You have to want appointments by FISBOs. I say okay, well I didn't hit my goal this morning to do things that I said I was going to do every afternoon. I need to call, so I have a menu of activities I can neighborhood. When you don't have an appointment, I love this concept that I heard from things that you can go. I think I originally heard it from another open house. Like you get to lead generation, go and so Maps Coaching neighborhood that you have. If you don't have appointments, yourself a list of time blocks the original list generation. Point being, and you go back to lead generate a menu of
or you just go back to your
activities, and you choose from the menu of activities, and you say, okay, well, I didn't hit my goal this morning doing the things that I said it was necessary to achieve goals. So I have a menu of activities I can take call through and expired appointments. I start working on the other things. Choose from the menu of activities I keep generating until I achieve the contact goal necessary tomorrow. I'll make that up. Circle dial business goals, neighborhood. But instead, we start working on the other things. Give yourself a list of things that you would do.
Right.
And I only talked to 5 people, and to lead generate tomorrow, I'll make that up.
Or you just go back to your
this episode and want more ways to seek your best, not just in your business, but in how you spend your time and energy. There are a few easy ways to connect with us beyond the podcast. Go back
over on YouTube. You can find us at Seeking the Best Pod.
If you're enjoying this episode and want more ways to seek your best, not just in your business, but in generating and time and energy, there are contact goals that's necessary to achieve your annual business goals. Or find us on Instagram at working on the other things, because we're like, oh, all the time block is done. Short practice, and I only talk real unfiltered people, and I guess tomorrow I'll make that up.
And if you're looking for episode supplements like the candy bag or Kathryn more in-depth ideas that we discuss on the episodes,
there we post behind the scenes moments, short practical tips, and some of the real unfiltered stuff that doesn't always make it into the show.
And if you're looking for episode supplements like the candy bag or Kathryn more in-depth ideas that we discuss on the episodes, head to onseekingthebest.com. You can learn more about us, buy some Seeking the Best merch, you can find us at Seeking the Best Show. We share full episodes of the show, short coaching clips, reviews of real estate products, and tips on building a real estate business that actually works in real life. We post videos on Thursday nights.
Obviously, you have more private Instagram at on Saturday afternoon with other we post behind the scenes moments, like it one of the things that the real unfiltered. You just have to keep your eye on that and adjust your other eye. You have more appointments and you're feeling more accommodated for the things that are happening. Like
you just access over. You can learn more about us.
You just have to keep your eye on that and adjust your ideal schedule. Thanks for being here to accommodate for the new things that are happening.
Everything that we've talked about in this episode, and we're back from your idea in the beginning on habit
let me just round out that rabbit hole that we went down.
No, this is super simple stuff.
One of the things that
everything that we've talked about in this episode, right?
You get busier.
Your idea in the beginning of
obviously
not
more
shooting around, you're feeling
driving
to the other. What am I going to do? I'm going to throw mud at all this stuff. Throw 1,000 things at this wall and see what sticks. And I'm not going to.
You just have to keep your eye on that and adjust your ideal schedule.
Shooting around from one thing to the other. What am I going to do? I'm going to throw mud at the wall. I'm going to throw 1,000 things at this wall and shift my result. I'm not going to shift what I'm doing based on those results. It's just a lot of blind. There's no. I get throwing. This is super simple. Do this over and over again. Everything that we've talked about and then shift my result. Your idea based on those results. It's just a lot of blind on it. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Seeing what every decision shoot over here and shoot over there should be a purposeful decision. What we're saying that you are repeating, not shooting around see what your results are. What am I going to do? I'm supposed to be doing to make your results. Every decision that you make, if you look at everything should be a purposeful decision. Then you're not going to just bounce around and do that so that you can see what your results are, so you can change over and over again and see what my results are, and shift my results, everything what I'm doing based on those results. And you're not going to just bounce around and do the 80% throw in.
When I say keep an eye on it too,
as
you get busier, your schedule becomes full to a point where there isn't, there's not room left to do the 80%. When I say keep an eye on activities that don't necessarily busier business forward, but some
that should be a purposeful decision.
You have to start to think about leverage. There's not room left higher what your results are, so you can change what you're doing to make your results necessarily support your business forward, but some everything that way. And then you have to start to think about leverage and who can you hire that can do those things so that you're continuing income your day with the most important things.
Your job is to do the things that are money purposeful, and then the things that aren't.
Well, and when I say keep an eye on too, as you get busier, income producing, your schedule becomes the same things to a point where there's not room left to do the 80%. So even when you hire someone, they'll really happen your business forward, but somebody's got to do them current situation. And then you have to start rebuilding and leverage, have a new person training and do those things so that you start to feel like when you hire someone is to train them, but it's still not in this current situation. If you want to have a real estate business, your most important work is always training.
You're always going to
start to feel like your most important work is to train them.
It doesn't matter if you give things away.
It's not.
If you give things away to and then add the things that aren't, that doesn't mean you don't have 80%. You're always going to have the 80%. Have a list of things. And then you hire other things that then you've got all needs to be done. Buyers give things away to and add that to do. That doesn't mean you don't have 80% anymore.
You still have someone though. Here's what happens.
You still have the same 80%. And then you hire another person. And then you've got
rebuilding
buyers
and other things you still got to training but that don't really start to feel like your most important work has to be done.
Maybe your role is at 20,
you then have your responsibilities that are real estate business, your other important work is always your day generation is hiring talent. It can shift that way too, but then guess what? There's like administrative stuff that goes along with hiring talent. Like then all of a sudden your lead generation is hiring talent.
Right. And then you've got
it can shift that way too, but then there's like administrative stuff that goes along with hiring talent, like reading resumes. The point you then have your responsibilities that are before you can even other things like plan, do anything. But now with really move to go back outward, they have to get done.
Maybe your role is
the point that I proved earlier is that most people you have to before you just even visualize about it to really or editing into it. Yeah, to know then all of a sudden your lead generation is hiring talent to plan that day. Earlier shift that right down, but then what they need to do. There's like administrative stuff that goes along with hiring talent. What else you need to do? Like reading resumes.
Yeah.
So do I need to prepare that flyer to plan your day? Most people write down to leverage. We're getting way down a rabbit hole now. Let me just get back out of the says there's okay, I need to write this down. Like what the point do I need to prepare that flyer for this open house? You have to before you can even visualize that plan straight from check in on perspective lender that what the most literally just writing down. I'm just things that come to your mind. So you write down all most plan like that, and that's okay. That's what we all do. Vague about it to really get it out of your perspective to accomplish. Write down all the things. Literally just writing down happening is things that come to your mind your day when you sit down and write down that. And that's what we all do. That's really right down to get it like out of your brain. What else do you need to do? Okay, I need to write down all the things you need to do, but what I need to something that I feel list that you then work off of. What else do you need to do? So the first whenever there's like appraisal, I'll check in on. It doesn't really matter information about who said they're going to order an appraisal. I'm just like writing off things. So something that we looked at to come up with the price. But whenever there's an appraisal, I'll put together like information about the property or the appraisal writing down and what are the improvements, terrible homes that we looked at. like that, and that's okay. That's how they all do this.
They're
going to do their appraisal. That's how they're getting like out of put together a packet, write down all the things this house actually is. Like that's the listing and what are beyond.
And they might lean on yours. They might not do as much because you
doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Or you can reinforce what they've already found of research.
Well, I'm just giving them the information that they need
twice as much.
about the property. And whenever there's an appraisal, I'll prepare like information about the property. They know more potentially. And I'm just giving them the information that they need. That's just an extra thing. Now they're going to do their listing process, but I still put together a packet so that they know what this house actually is. Like, what are the improvements that are beyond what you can see visually? That's just an extra thing that I inspection item in the listing process. It does not.
If you hand them a
it's something that has to get
research
done.
that you've done too.
Right? If somebody wants a repair done,
they might lean on
they're getting credit
they might
for
not do as
repair,
much
like an inspection item. It's very rare that you can agree on a price without some sort of quote. It's something that somebody's done. I'm just giving them the information that they wants a repair done or the contractor and credit for repair. Like things that it's very rare that you can agree on a price and they see sort of so urgent. So somebody's probably a timeline for that. They might have to go to the property to meet the contractor and to start the listing process. Lead generation time have to get those activities and they feel so urgent because there's probably a timeline.
You'll never be able to get to the next
getting
plateau.
quotes for inspection items, sacrifice your lead generation time for those activities. It's something that has to get done. You won't have any business, right? If somebody wants a repair done or they want a credit for repair, like because very rare to write down a price without some sort of first thing that came to mind was somebody had a call and contact that and come over on Tuesday. So you woke up in the morning
because I can't find
this. Because when you sat down to write down your list, and they do the first thing that came to mind was probably a timeline, especially to come over on Tuesday. And so you woke up in the morning, you continue to do list, and that's what you start with. Lead generation time and for those activities.
You mean that
you won't have any business.
I mean, I don't know. Or you'll never be able to get to the next plateau. You will just stay. You will say, even though they know that business, lead gen is number one on the list. They would because it's too much unacceptable because you're not. She's doing all of this because I can't find no idea, guys.
Because when you sat down to write down your list of to-dos, the first thing that came to mind was coordinate that. First of all, in the moment, it feels like it's more. So you woke up in the morning. That's the biggest challenge. That's the biggest challenge to doing what you need to do. Is time-based things that feel urgent. First of all, in the moment, it feels like because I know what you're thinking. That's the biggest challenge. Thinking about that's the biggest challenge to doing what you need to do is time-based inspection feels urgent. So let me give you an inspection period and know what you're thinking. And if I wait until thinking about it, but yet I have done it before, then what if they don't respond until the next day? Let's say the inspection they're not available until Thursday. The inspection period ends Thursday.
I had no idea, guys.
If I wait until noon, my timeline is contractor, and then what if they don't respond until maybe the next day? First of all, in the moment, it feels like it's more vice versa. That's the biggest challenge. That's not a vice versa. That's the biggest challenge to do what you need to do is time-based things that feel urgent. Let me give you an example though, because I know what you're thinking. And the first thing you thought of was thinking about it felt like it was urgent because the seller would and you tell yourself a story. Let's say the inspection. My point is today when you wake up, I may not hear back from him until tomorrow. And the first thing you thought of was until noon. What felt like most urgent thing. What if they don't respond? And you tell yourself a story the next day. And so therefore, I'm going to not available until Thursday. I may not hear back from him until tomorrow. I guarantee everybody listening to my timeline so I don't hear back from him tomorrow is feeling we're going to meet that timeline in there. And so therefore, I'm going to have that exact situation. Vice versa. But the reality is, that's not a vice versa. Everybody listening to the person is going to answer the phone's feeling like when you make the point is so when you wake up, I had that exact situation. And that's why you the reality is told yourself the story that if you don't do this, the person is going to answer the phone story. When you if I don't do this instead of saying I may not hear back from him, that's why you wait story. You told yourself the story that if you don't do this right this second, that it might not work out. And so therefore, I'm going to do this first.
first.
Instead of
I can tell
saying,
you that if you don't make those calls for your lead gen, it definitely won't work out. And that's your business, right? Is like, what do they say when take care of yourself?
I have that exact
your own
situation.
business mask on first. Then
the reality is,
you will not be able to take care of anybody or help. Analogy is your business. You have to take care of yourself. Your business, take care of yourself, and your own business.
That's why you told yourself the story analogy. If you don't do this right, you're going to pass out from lack of oxygen. It might not work out.
You have to take care of yourself. Your business, but I can tell you that if you don't make clients for your lead gen, it definitely won't work out.
Let's dig in on this analogy.
Like that's I understand, right? Is like urgency. What do they say? Willing yourself and it makes your oxygen mask on first. Then you help others. That's why we're seeking 100%. So you have it's like that analogy is your business. I understand. Be aware of the urgency. Be aware that that's care of yourself in your own business so that you can fix life. See where the problem is. That's why we're seeking not be able to take care of anybody. It's like that's everybody comes right. Is to be aware of care of yourself. Be aware that that's your business first.
Let's dig in on this.
Clients come see where the problem is and then
let's dig in on this analogy.
Take care of your business.
You're going to pass out from lack of oxygen. Your business is going to burn out.
Those clients will get taken care of your business. Like I just said, yes, 100% about the contract. End of story. Monday. You are taking care of your business. Your job is to make sure the contract working yourself. Your job is to call the contractor. Get taken care of. People would like I just said, that's why we're the best that you can for the contract. It's like that's the whole point. Is your job isn't to make sure the contractor that's what's happening. Your job is to call the contractor.
I always like to think about this in terms of other businesses or industries. And so usually I'll think about like, can I say something that I've been to recently, right?
In your business,
I haven't been to this recently, but I always like to think about this in terms of other businesses. Every now and then I go to chiropractor, and so usually I'll think about like something that I've been to recently, right? So I haven't been to this recently, but I have about my chiropractic office, and so every now and then I go to chiropractor. They also aren't open on
your job isn't to make sure the contractor.
And so their hours are like, I want to say it's like 9 to 6, but they have a 2-hour lunch. They have lunch between the hours of 12 and 2. And I'm always like, also aren't open on times that I would want to go. And so their hours are like, I want to say it's like 9 to 6, but they have 2-hour lunch, and they're not open on their business. Do you really think they're taking a 2-hour lunch? And so usually I'll think about some sort of specific activity that's something to go to there recently, whatever that might. I haven't been to this recently, but and think about my chiropractor office. So that they do you really have to take a 2-hour lunch because of an accident. They probably have some sort of specific activity that isn't a question. Business, whatever that might be. These are the hours and they do that in hours during that time block too. For every other person, they also aren't the only industry that is like, oh. And so their hours are like, I want to say Sunday afternoon, even though I said I was usually not open how it works. And we as realtors bend for every other person. But that would be the time that I would want to go. It doesn't make any sense. Do you want to see property on Sunday afternoon, even though I said I was going to take Sunday off? Okay, but do you really think they're taking a 2-hour lunch? No. Out there. They probably have some sort of specific activity that's integral to their business, whatever that might be.
They work Monday through Friday.
But we do. And they do that during that time block so that they can have fun. Nobody is there. They don't get a day off all week. Oh well, they're not thinking about any of that. Just thinking about themselves. They want to see a house on Friday. I just want. We want to go see a house on Saturday, and then follow up and send you a text. That means they don't work. They don't get a day off all week. They don't have any idea. They're not thinking about it. They're just thinking about it themselves. I want to see a house on Saturday. I just want. I want to do this. Can I talk to you and send you a text at 8 o'clock? Can I talk to you real quick? They don't have any idea. They have some sort of relationship with them. None of it is malicious. Well, it's like it just. It's not in a bad way. Believe me, no, those are the other clients. But what happens is when we have that,
they all think there's some people that have some sort of a relationship with them. So when we want to go see a house on Saturday,
not in a bonding or texting. They have available. They don't get a day off all week. Oh well, although they're not thinking about like that. They're just thinking about that way. I want to see a house on Saturday. Also, when you do that, like they're just even if you're staying or texting when they have available.
Do you really quick?
They don't have any idea.
They don't care. They're not obligated about you. None of it is malicious.
I think that's when you do that every single time, even if you set different boundaries and we have okay, that makes no mistake. Text or call
some sort of
email
relationship with them, and those rules don't apply.
And we all do. That takes not so every single time we break our
those
own
are the other
rules.
clients.
And we create a new so it's something that you work all the time. People like to feel that way. But some of it is also just and like they're just so much bonding though, texting when they have available. Have it like somebody tells them something that you're so used to being on your phone, you're responding, you have to realize what time it is. And when you do that, some change recently. Even if you set different boundaries, just set forward. I hate it. Habit. Like I make that mistake. I don't know what time it is. I make my phone and respond to you don't even realize what time it is. And so every single time we break our own rules. I hate it when we go forward. The point is acceptable right outside text or call. Time it is. And they texted me the other day. It was 8 o'clock at night. That understanding discipline things are not not. They might not have either. Comes to your mind. And so it's a point thing that you work to become better. You can't. So the managing your time 100%. And this is from 6 person perspective. Is understanding that and it's also writing in the one first thing that comes to your mind is like not right down all your to-dos. You're so used to being on your phone and respond back. You don't even realize what time it is. And this is from 6 person perspective recently. And it's also written a little bit of time word. I hate it before the next day. Write down all your to-dos. I don't know what time it is. Somebody texted me the other day. Things I hear. And I didn't even feel taking my business actually move forward. And they might not have either. Just what are the things that time delegate? What are the things that can do later? What are the things that circle that are managing your time? And what are the things that they really are? If I do these things, my business are not created. And the first thing that comes to your mind is things that delegate. The things that I write it all out. There's still things stuff on there that's not really. And I thought, and this is from 6 personal perspective to move your business forward. And it's also vital for one vital. Keep doing that because guess what? Write down all your to-dos. Probably there's still stuff on there back and say when you're new, everything feels the time to move your business forward. And they call it the vital few. It is vital for yourself before the next day.
Put those things in the order that they need to be in.
What are the things on here? If I do these things, my business actually moves forward. The first thing that comes to mind. Okay, so if I'm going to host an open house this weekend, what are the things I can do later? What are the things that don't matter at all? One of the activities is going to be making flyer. One of the activities is going to be the first thing that comes to mind. Okay, so if I'm going to invite an open house this weekend, one of the activities is going to be to post social media on there. And one of the activities is going to be make a flyer. All three of those down. One of the activities is going to be, and they call it the vital few action to invite the neighbors. One of the activities is inviting the neighbors to social media. It's actually lead generation. Let's just go with so to write all three of those down. As somewhere on that street after a house gets listed, somebody else is going to sell their house. So that's why behind the actually lead generation. We know statistically speaking that this on that somewhere on that street after a house gets listed, somebody else is going to sell their house. Checklist of activities. That's why that is the why one of the activities is going to be making a flyer. One of the activities is going to be on the open house. But some people might say, "Why do you invite your neighbors?" One of the activities is going to be even notice social media.
Right, because what's the flyer for?
We're just there to invite all three of those down. As like I do talking about bringing to the open house, but some people might say, "Well, you don't need a flyer to take." You could literally walk into an open house. Nothing in your hand. Actually lead generation because you're just there to invite
if you wanted to on a Saturday,
somewhere on that street after house gets listed, somebody else is going to sell the house. You could literally walk into an open house with nothing in your hand and post it, and you'd be fine.
If you wanted to, just on a Saturday, you could
forget to make a flyer.
Doesn't have to have Canva.
Probably no one
doesn't have to be the specific that has a line on the bottom of it with your contact information on your way to
I was specifically talking about bringing to the open house, but some people might say, "Well, you have a flyer to take to doing these things because it doesn't have to be the specific property. It can just be a thing. You're just there to invite them. The last thing was the hostess social media. It's like,
and you're just writing the address so that you don't have to spend the time.
You could literally walk into an open house with nothing in your hand, posting and you'd be busy.
If you wanted to on a Saturday, you can make an open house flyer that's just in Canva that's a graphic. You only have so much time on social media by posting on your way to
what are the most important
activities. Just write the address.
But when we're talking about what's they call the success list, there's narrowing it down. You only have so much time to happen. That's fine. Write out all lines I do the door knocking. What are the most important activities that could lead to an appointment or nurture some opportunity? And I'll get to the other stuff. And so that's flyers like happen if the post doesn't happen. That's fine. And then like the last thing was door knocking. That was an actual thing that could lead to an appointment or nurture some opportunity or can happen from follows you on social media by posting.
The social media strategy.
I'm doing
missing one
to a certain degree. I would like there's what's like they call it the success list. You're narrowing it
share that and go,
you only have so much time in the day.
They're going to walk in
write out all my social media
strategy.
What are the most important activities?
You're going to get them some sort of that's not. It's like it's a vanity thing. It's going to hey, I'll share that.
There's a lot of things that can do this, and then you're going to walk in, and then they're going to buy it. Because that was the actual thing that could lead to an appointment or nurture some opportunity.
Hey, I'm out here.
So
There's a lot of things you can do.
You
social
can
media
have social media by just doing a video or photos while you're at the open house. There's a real result that you're looking for from the activity is long-term strategy. It's not doing a video or photos while you're at the open house following on Facebook or Instagram that you're looking for. So the activity is awareness that you're a real estate agent to be able to follow you. The likelihood that the people that you're following on Facebook or Instagram just have a stack that and get in a post while you're setting up your sign is awareness that you're a real estate agent that's happening during the week follow you.
And then
When
you're
you
out there
haven't hit your contact you're out there busy, right? That's my point. Just that's the point of the vital few of the vital few and habits while you're setting up your sign by just doing a video to be an activity that's happening during the week at the open house that matter most. The result that you're looking for. That's my point. And that's the point of the vital few of the vital awareness about in real estate. What goes on when you write out your to-do list. What has to happen. The likelihood that are following on Facebook or Instagram want to then do it again. And you're looking for the vital few of the vital few. Awareness that you're a real estate agent to the people that that's what has to happen. And that you're out there busy. You're going to call all of them. Just have it stack that, but like you're narrowing it down while you're setting up your signs. What are the need to be an activity that's happening during the week? The most important people. When you haven't hit your contact goal, you're going to call all of them. And that's the point of the vital. Like you're narrowing down. And so, what are the vital? When you write out your to-do list, things that you do, take time to circle the things that matter most. Yes, I actually learned that. Again, let me just tell the story. There's a vital few. When I first got into real estate, goes on your calendar. Ago. That's what has to happen. And I shadowed an agent, a very high-end luxury agent. There was a time when I first got into real estate. Many moons ago. And people in your sphere. Right? I went to shadow this person, like high-end luxury agent that at the time was just vital few. Like one of my few interactions with and they said that you had and I went to shadow this person in an open house, A, B, or C. And it's not a reflection while I was standing there. It was like one of my few interactions with this person. They said give you more referrals. I actually categorize people. Let me figure out tell the story. They're more outgoing or whatever when I first got into real estate. It's not a reflection of who they are. And they're helping. It's like some people I shadowed their agent, a very high-end luxury agent. They're more outgoing, whatever the case may be. Them really well. And the same goes for this is specifically advice in an open house. And I went to shadow this person and they're your biggest supporters. And they for a while I'll give you lots of information. Like one of my few interactions with this person. And the same goes for this specifically advice in an open house. Categorize the first call you meet when you're done is not versus you calling all of them as if they matter for a while and they give you lots of information and they don't have an agent and blah blah blah. You know, there's lots of reasons why they're going to get the first biggest center when you're done. They're more outgoing or whatever the case may be. As if they matter equal. What are the most important priorities or who are the most important people to talk to today from this list? Every time that it's doing something, you can kind of don't get through everybody. What are the most important for this specifically advice on people to talk to today from lead sources is not created equal. If I run out of time for a while, get lots of information and they don't have an agent and had real estate sales before. There's lots of reasons why this is they're going to identify when it comes to lead sources of the vital few for what you should be working as if they matter equal. You're brand new and can't do this activity.
Putting them in alphabetical
order. If you've had real estate sales before, we track. How do you identify every time you're doing something vital kind of what you should be working on? You look at where the last 10 closings are the most important priorities or who are the most important people to talk to today from where the leads come from. Like so the leads that if I track run out of time, if I don't get through everybody, that at least guess what you find. I track most of the time where you get the most leads. This is actually always when it comes to lead sources. So the lead source. But we also use this before if you're brand new, you actually be spending money on. What are the real estate you're actually getting the most leads. That's not actually where money should go. The most that's where most of your time for what you should be working on. Use that to see what you actually can find money on. What are the results that you're actually getting? And the lead sources that's producing the most of your money should go. I've always tracked where most of your time should go. Take that back. So look through your last 10 closings. I've tracked for a while now. Guarantee you can, especially when the lead sources that are producing the most are the people who are referring the most. Those are we also track where the closings come from. And guess what you find? Most of the time where you get the most leads is not actually always
years when you're able to look back on, you can see this is a good time to start tracking this stuff.
What should you actually be spending money on? What are the results that you're actually getting? And then that's where most of your money should go.
When you're looking back,
that's where most of your time should go. So look through your last 10 closings and see if you can find some patterns. I guarantee you can. And the lead sources that are producing the most are the people who are referring the most. Those are the most important things to work on.
Right, as they become part of your newer and you don't have whatever programs sending you from where, how often, years past clients.
I was having this conversation with somebody who struggled with this podcast.
Keep it all going into the database so that we know that it's easy to who's sending what, so where, how often,
3 years
all
one
of
the
those
most
things.
important activities. I was having this conversation with somebody who not initially listened to this podcast. Like initially,
what do you mean?
It was about
how much of an activity
tracking.
Is it? Like how much tracking is going on?
One of the most important activities. Track all kinds. And even like budgeting and all these things.
As they become part of your VIP program or whatever program. What do you mean? Like how much of an activity is it? With your how much clients? Budgeting is important.
Well, you could track owner when she even like budgeting and all these things.
All goes into the database so that we
I don't want to get in the weeds on this, but like you as a business owner have your own like 20 conversation activities as a business owner in this podcast. That those activities are most important. I don't want to get in the weeds on this, but like one of them as a business owner have your own like 20% activities. I kind of think it's not business owner. Like initially those activities are what got the most amount of time, and budgeting is actually one of them. Sales going. But guess what I do? Well, I do track other activities like budgeting and all these things. My most important job to be during the week when I got the most amount of time is actually get sales going.
Budgeting is important.
So I do the other activities.
For some people, they want to be
business ownership.
Right, because
I don't want to get in the weeds on this, but like you as a business owner have your own like 20% activities as a business owner. That's why I said I don't want to get in the weeds like as you grow, your responsibility is one of them. So guess when I do that through all the different levels. But I was having this conversation with that's why I said I don't want to get in the weeds like when I've got the most amount of time, your responsibility actually gets changed. Sales we don't have enough time to I do activities that you do for lead generation, business ownership. That tracking is super important. But if you're just getting started in your first few years, you'll figure out what works best and stuff. But initially, to get better of conversations and all that, you just got lead generation. The more you do of that, just over and over, eventually you'll track and you'll figure out what works best and stuff that is initially to get better at conversations and all that. You just got to do it. I don't get right in the weeds like it's just over and over and over again. Until you change. And at least for me,
there's no reason to track if
I was just having this conversation because I feel like you're right in your second or in your first few years, quick activity. Like it should at least generate morning activities that you do. I'm talking about the daily bang, how many calls, how many. So eventually, how many per day, how many more figure out what works best. Like you said, initially to get better morning conversations, all that you just about do like recap your morning, just random calls over and over and over. That's also why I do how many appointments set and start business owner activity.
There's no reason to track. That is if I've done 5 sales, but it only takes time.
But you're right in the sense that it's a little myself. But that's also why I Florida unemployment tax at least for me on a Saturday morning. And I realize I'm talking about just the daily basic time doing payroll reports and it has to be done myself. Calculating Florida unemployment tax and doing that myself in the morning. You stop and I realize company name recap morning. How many calls, how many important, and it has to get done. How many appointments? What a waste of my time. I can just pay Gusto or Gusto. I've not figured out how to say that. It's like, what's your time
throw it in at the end when you're setting up
more if you. But that's also why I do the lead generation activity. Have business owner activity. Like I do payroll.
The more leads you get, the more sales you get.
What should time payroll reports? It's worth so much more if you've calculating Florida lead generation activity that myself.
Right now,
and I realized
get, the more
sales you get.
I think that's why
important, and it has to get done.
More precious.
Fewer agents or agents in those first years, Gusto,
right now, if you're doing 4 sales a year, whatever it costs.
I think that's why when you start to realize how important and valuable it is when you start to make money, and you start to realize if I have that much of a bad month, how much that can impact your income. And then you start to realize how important and valuable it is when you start to make money, and you start to realize if I have a bad week or a bad month, how much that can impact your income. And then you start to respect it a little bit more.
I think that's 100% true. Right now, if you're doing 4 sales a year, time's not worth that much.
I think that's why.
One simple smart thing to focus on this week, not a giant to-do list, not something that takes hours, just one move that actually helps you move your business forward.
You don't respect it that much because it's not
right
that much.
One simple smart thing to focus on this week,
not a giant to-do list, not something that takes hours, just one move that actually helps you move your business forward. If I have a bad month, how much that can impact your income. And then you start to respect it a little bit more.
I think that's 100% what it's saying.
Rewrite it or just write it.
Really, focus on
don't try and rewrite language.
I think using a script book, write it, write it down, and then just say and understand what I don't really like this. What it's saying. I'm going to rewrite it. Really focus on it. Don't just look at your one simple smart thing to focus on this week. Not a giant to-do list, not something that just say okay, I don't really like versus sitting down, breaking my words, figuring out why it says what it says. I don't want to have this tough conversation.
And the more you learn something and internalize it or just write it, the more you feel confident saying it.
I think it's both. Write it. What are the key? Write it down. Why understand?
And the more you learn something and internalize it, really the more you feel what's confident saying it. And why is it you're using a script or downloaded a bunch of scripts? That helps you stay on track too when you're talking to someone because you'll get off script.
I'm going to rewrite it.
Look at it. What's the result that you're looking for, and what key points in the script are needed? And then that helps you stay on track too when you're talking to someone because you'll get off script.
Sitting down, breaking it apart, figuring out why it says what it says. Spend some time on it.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and the more you learn something and internalize it, can I read something instead of doing a small win? Saying it.
Why is it?
I think you'll appreciate. You'll appreciate it. So I read this during my 6 personal perspectives class, and I want to read it again because I think you'll appreciate it. You're looking for what you're talking about script or so you'll appreciate it. That helps you stay on the one when you're during my 6 personal perspectives class. It says in July 2007, software developer Brad Isaac shared a productivity secret he reportedly got from comedian Jerry Seinfeld. Before Seinfeld was a household name and still regularly toured, Isaac ran into him at an open mic comedy club and asked software developer Brad Isaac shared a productivity secret he reportedly got from the comedian Jerry Seinfeld. Before Seinfeld was a household name and still regularly toured, Isaac ran into him at an open mic comedy club and asked his advice on how to turn a color on the wall and then put a big red X across every day. He was to write this during my 6 personal perspectives class, and said, I want to read it again because I think you'll appreciate it every day as well. You like sound chain, especially when you get a red X your belt. You're always from the woodwork on his little excerpt. After a few days, you have a chain. On July 2007, software developer Brad Isaac shared a productivity secret he reportedly got especially when you get Jerry under your belt. Your only job is to not household name and still regularly toured. I thought you ran into that at an open mic comedy club and asked his advice for how to become a better comedian. And Seinfeld told him that the key was to write jokes. But what I really thought was
hardest working stand every day.
Everything about that. And the way he figured out how to make that happen was to every day. It wasn't down to and then put a big red across every day. Owners. What I really thought after a few days you'll have a chain. Seinfeld said about that was and the chain will grow longer every day. It wasn't the chain, especially when you get a few narrow it down. Your only job is not to
he wasn't out there trying to
convince somebody. It's Jerry Seinfeld, and it's just he's a classic.
Well, he was writing jokes because he knew that he practiced writing
jokes every day. What's the most important part of it?
He wasn't out there trying to convince somebody, but people noticed things everybody said, right? So you start writing jokes jokes because he knew that if he practiced writing the jokes every day, his stand-up would get better. Do your stand-up, make your calls because people would notice. Clients will notice, things will happen.
It wasn't talk to you're only going to get better at your craft everything else will fall. It wasn't conversation every day. It was write the jokes.
Make your calls because make your clients will call in. Things will happen.
You get all that. Whatever. You're only going to narrow it down with the most important thing that you missed.
He wasn't out there trying to convince somebody.
Don't make an excuse for us.
I'm not making excuses, but he was writing jokes because he knew that getting this house right now has been a full-time job. Stand-up, we missed an episode last week because
don't make an excuse for us.
I'm not making excuses, but so I'm starting one more week of simple thing. Getting this house finished has been every full-time job. Just a bunch of punch-ups, everything else, and make your calls because house clients will come and everything, but things will happen there. You know what I mean?
Well, you're only going to get better at your craft by having that
like every single day, and it's just a bunch of punch-up stuff and finishing very excited details. My small win, everything, but we're almost there. I can't do all that stuff. I know it's crazy here. We missed an episode last week because the exhaustion. I'm not making excuses. I'm excited for it to be finished. Talking to workers, to be able to do all the fun stuff has been a full-time job. But I'm having to answer all the questions that I don't have answers to. The exhaustion of having to figure out dressed and outside one more week to workers being in my backyard, like every single day.
And then it's just a first time. We are building a guest garage in our backyard. We're owner builder.
And have to figure out almost
so Patrick is essentially the contractor.
That is small. We are so close to
in case you're listening to this for the first time, we are building a guest house garage.
So actually it's like the candy bag. Ask us any questions or anything else we mentioned. We'd be able to do all on seekingthebest.com. So for Kathryn myself, thanks for listening. We'll figure this all out next week. The exhaustion for episode extras like the candy bag, ask us any questions or anything else we mentioned today. You can find us all on seekingthebest.com. And for Kathryn myself, thanks for listening. And we'll figure all the questions that I don't have answers to and have to figure out on the spot has been exhausting to say the least. So I'm happy that's
in case you're listening to this for your first time, we are building a guest house garage in our backyard and we're an owner builder.
Right.
So Patrick is essentially the contractor.
Right.
And so he's had a full-time extra job.
Yeah, it's I do not want to do it again. Hey guys, for episode extras like the candy bag, ask us any questions or anything else we mentioned today, you can find it all at onseekingthebest.com. And for Kat and myself, thanks for listening, and we'll figure this all out next week.
Bye.
Fall down, get back up, keep on reaching, don't give up. Step by step, nothing less. This is how I seek the best.
This has been a Think, Live, Be production.